Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate. This is a very exciting day because patch number 5 just dropped this morning. I'm recording this the evening of the 30th, so patch number 5 just went live, and I just wanted to take a quick look at some of the changes that came out and see how that will affect any of the builds we've done previously, any of the builds we're doing in the future, and any other stuff that I might want to highlight. So I'm going to go over some of the really important patch highlights, just anything that really jumps out at me, and then we will test out any major balance changes to see how they affect builds, and I'll also do any build skeletons or even full build guides later on for any characters that have significantly changed. So let's just jump right into it. Before I start, though, I do want to take a quick moment to say just thank you so much to everyone. We just passed 5,000 subscribers yesterday, and that's really exciting. I'll be doing a celebration live stream over the weekend, so I hope to see you there. All right, let's take a look at these patch highlights. Main highlights. We've got an epilogue, so that's great, just a little more closure for the story, but let's focus more on the mechanical changes. The big one here is 2 new play modes, Honor Mode and Custom Mode. Honor Mode is something I'm really excited about. I did look up what this means because it's not actually explained in these patch notes, but this is an Iron Man mode, just like my playthrough that I started a while ago, and also adds legendary actions and additional buffs to every boss in the game. So if you play on Honor Mode, you'll only have one save file. If your party dies, you die forever, and the run just ends, and every boss has additional legendary actions and additional abilities. I haven't tested exactly what these are, of course, yet, because this patch just dropped, but we'll be checking those out as we go. Legendary actions in tabletop give bosses things that they can do off turn, so they will be able to act off of their turn order, as well as some additional options for multiple actions in a turn or particularly powerful spells. I'm hoping that they did add some of the off-turn actions. I don't know whether Baldur's Gate actually supports that at all in terms of the programming, but if they did, then that will add a really interesting dimension to boss fights, so I'm very excited to see those. Honor Mode also, of course, is very exciting to me. This is what I wanted out of the game, an Iron Man mode that's Tactician Plus. I have found with this game that Tactician mode is a little bit too easy, so I am hoping that they have really amped up the difficulty for this mode, and we can probably try a playthrough and see if people enjoy that, and I will give you more info on that as we go. Very excited for this. The next big thing here, being able to access and manage the inventories of companions. This isn't a major mechanical change, but this is a huge change that I wanted to highlight. Man, this will save us so much time. Really glad they added that. All right, let's take another look at any other mechanical changes. Just skimming through this mostly. Improve the physics to prevent NPCs from being able to shoot through ceilings inside houses. That's a big one that will solve a lot of particularly challenging encounters where NPCs were able to break the rules of the game and also the rules of physics. I'm thinking in particular of the fight against the Paladin when you first rescue Karlach. His allies would often stand on the second floor and shoot down through the floor at you if you approach that fight sort of as intended from the ground floor. So that will make that fight, which in my opinion is one of the hardest in the game, significantly easier. So that should be a nice change, preventing those enemies from breaking those rules. Keep rolling. Boo will no longer take damage when thrown. That should be a really fun build, just focusing on Minsc's unique ability to hurl Boo at things. When you throw Boo at something, it blinds them if you hit, and that's with no save, just if you hit with Boo. So that's actually a really powerful ability, something that's really worth keeping in mind. And then here's the biggest one in terms of balance changes. Wild shapes that do not have weapons will now benefit fully from having the Tavern Brawler feat. So what this means is that previously, Tavern Brawler would only apply to your attack rolls and not your damage rolls in Wild Shape. This is an enormous buff. It's going to be plus 5 damage per attack, so like plus 15 damage a turn for any wild-shaped druid with Tavern Brawler, because druids will get 3 attacks a round. Many wild-shaped forms have 20 strength, so it's going to be a huge amount of additional damage. Very much worth, I think, at this point, taking Tavern Brawler even at level 4 on druids, especially moon druids, who are going to be more wild shape focused. It does also reduce the value of the Moon Druid Myrmidon forms because those have weapons, so they won't benefit from Tavern Brawler. So I think you're actually even more incentivized to play a Land Druid and use Haste rather than a Moon Druid if you want a wild shape focused Druid. And that's something that I will probably do a full build guide on soon. We'll also, later in the video, I will test this out just to make sure it's working the way I think it is from the patch note. Crashes, very glad to see crash fixes, of course, but we can skip those because they don't change balance. But if anyone is suffering from crashes, then they have addressed them, and that's awesome. Combat and balance. All right, here's the meat of things. Combat AI not checking if it can use items. That's great. AI would often skip using items, and I really appreciate that they are updating this, especially bombs and healing potions and stuff. AI would often not use. If they are fully using those in combat, it will make those combats more challenging, and that's awesome. These are a bunch of fixes for specific battles, so we can mostly skip those, but this is incredibly just a great fix. It's a bug fix rather than a balance update, but assassins will now actually always get their action back on the first turn of combat. That's very important to the assassin rogue archetype and makes that even more, I think, ahead of the other archetypes, unless you're doing specific cheese with offhand attack with thieves. The extra action that you can get by attacking out of combat and then attacking in the first round of combat means that you basically get 2 attacks in the first round of combat with Assassin Rogue. You sort of are the same as a Gloomstalker in that way. So that's going to give you early access to double attacks in the opening round of combat. And then, of course, it combines very well with Gloomstalker as well, so you can actually make your Gloomstalker attack in addition to your bonus attack before starting combat. So huge buff to Assassin Rogues, especially for Archer-based Assassin Rogues, so we'll definitely want to look at those as being a more powerful build going forward. Fix summon durations while summoned in combat. Very few summons have short durations in this game, so generally you want to, I think that would reduce their turns for something like a spiritual weapon from 10 to 9. I don't think that will matter at all. Attacks against a paralyzed or unconscious target no longer automatically hit, but any hits that do land deal critical damage. This is bringing this in line with how it works in tabletop. You didn't get automatic hits against paralyzed targets, but did get automatic crits. So just glad to see that they're bringing some of the balancing things in line with tabletop. I do think that paralyzed or unconscious are worse conditions in Baldur's Gate 3 than they are in tabletop because hold person requires 2 saves before they skip a turn with it. So a nerf to that I don't think was necessary, but it's still probably good just that they're making this more consistent. And maybe they fixed hold person. I haven't read all the patch notes yet. Flesh to Stone, fixed the slowed condition. That's a mild nerf to an already bad spell, so we don't really need to pay attention to that. Battle Master maneuvers now correctly add your proficiency bonus to the difficulty class. That's awesome. That's been bugged forever, and it means that Battle Masters were not able to successfully trip or menace as often as they should be able to. Adding this means that they will much more consistently apply those effects, making Battle Master maneuvers even better than they already are. This does mean Battle Master is probably even more ahead of the other 2 fighter archetypes from this change, unless they've done balance work on the other 2, but that's okay because Battle Master's the coolest and the best anyways, so it's fine for it to be just better than the other 2. Don't come at me, Eldritch Knight fans. Half-Orc's Savage attacks now apply to offhand weapons. That's good. Half-Orc has been bugged in a lot of ways. I hope that they fix some of the other ways too. Like it should be rolling 2 extra dice when you critically hit with a greatsword, not 1 extra die, but it doesn't look like they fixed that. So Half-Orcs still a little bugged probably, but this is getting them some way towards being in line with where they're supposed to be. Primal Stampede, a saving throw to save against being prone. I believe that's the attack option of the Deep Rothe wild shape form, if I'm correct about that. So that's probably good. No save proning effects are typically pretty bad, especially because prone is more powerful in this game than it is in tabletop D&D. All of these are for specific combat, increase the rarity value, fixed an issue with the Tavern Brawler feat where damage bonuses were being incorrectly applied multiple times while making a throwing attack. I don't know what that means exactly. We'll definitely want to test that, so as we go further into the video, I will test a Tavern Brawler build, and I guess 2 Tavern Brawler builds. I'm going to test to make sure that the wild shape with Tavern Brawler is working the way I think it is now, and to make sure that throwing builds still work with Tavern Brawler. It should give you your strength bonus plus... it should give you your strength bonus twice, even after this fix. So I don't know if there were cases where it was applying 3 times or something like that. We'll test it and see what it's doing now. Nothing else. Doesn't look like anything else is particularly important for balance in the combat and balance section. So currently we've got throwing builds and wild shape builds are the most affected. It sounds like throwing builds may have been nerfed, depending on what that patch note actually means, and wild shape builds, assassin builds, and battle masters were buffed significantly. So especially wild shape. I think wild shape druids are the big winner this patch from what I've seen so far. Let's just quickly skim through gameplay. Fixed animations, dousing a fire. Fix the surprise condition being added twice by a stealth attack. So that's a minor bug that was sometimes causing enemies to skip 2 turns instead of 1. Probably good to fix that. And Shadow Step is no longer blocked by silence. Oh, that is cool. And that gives... So Shadow Step is the Shadow Monk's teleportation ability, which is not a spell. Not being blocked by silence is very cool, and that gives me a very fun idea for a build, which I will save for a full build guide, so keep an eye out for that. But that's gonna be a busted build if that works the way I think it does. And then... Jumping to view the character whose turn it is in combat no longer requires shared initiative. Oh, thank goodness. that was such an annoying feature. Dipping weapons in toxin puddles makes attacks toxic for 10 turns rather than until long rest. That's a nice little nerf. I think that was too powerful and worked inconsistently with how applying the toxin to your weapon worked. That's got to be better. Fix heat metal expiring too early. That's also great. So heat metal was breaking if they made the save against it. It would sometimes expire even though the heat metal effect should stay on them forever and cause them to save over and over again. It would sometimes just be removed, making a powerful spell that's especially important to bards and sorcerers and wizards as a mid-level combat option, much less powerful than it should have been. So this is a very important fix, actually, and we will probably be prioritizing picking up heat metal more often in builds going forward now that works correctly. Fixing some more bugs, more specific things for specific encounters. Creatures summoned with the spell Conjure Woodland Being are now capable of jumping. That's nice. That's actually especially important for druid summons because druids will often have fields on the ground, plant growth or spike growth, something like that. So that actually is a pretty nice buff. Also, the more they remove creatures that can't jump from the game, the worse those field effects get. So I don't know if enemies are getting the same treatment here. But something to keep an eye out for is as they add jumping to more enemies, like last patch they added jumping to zombies, and so suddenly those zombies were able to jump to bypass spike growth. Those field effects get less powerful the more enemies can jump, so that's something to keep in mind going forward. Those may or may not play out as well as they used to. Perma-burning weapons can no longer be coated in other substances. This actually has a specific interaction for one specific build. One of the recent builds I posted was the bleed-focused Tiger Barbarian that uses the AoE Tiger's Bloodlust attack. One of the best weapons for that build was the Hellfire Great Axe. But if perma-burning weapons can't be poisoned, poisons are very powerful for that build. So that makes that weapon slightly less powerful for that build. This is a minor niche case, but I think it is worth mentioning that is something to keep in mind going forwards. Lucky now works while wild-shaped. That's awesome. Another huge buff to wild-shaped druids. Lucky is an underrated feat, I think. If you have feats to spare, it's very powerful. I also don't know if the Lucky feat includes the Halfling Lucky feature. It shouldn't, in terms of polymorph or wild shape, but that's something to test. Whether they've coded those using it like exactly the same lines, basically, is something that is worth checking out. Conjure Minor Elemental at level 6 will correctly summon Ice Mephites instead of Mud Mephites. That's good. That's just a nice buff to that spell. Typically at level 6 you're gonna not want these Conjure Minor Elemental usually, but it's still worth updating that. It will be more powerful. You can no longer get free resources by starting in turn-based mode. That's also good, just a nice buff, and the more consistent this stuff is, the better. And fixed a couple bugs. Alright, so just going through all of the gameplay updates, it seems like the big winners this patch are Wild-Shaped Druids, Battlemaster Fighters, and Assassin Rogues. I will also jump over and just make sure that those things are working the way that they should be, so let's swap to the game here. I've just pulled this open. All right, let's try Tavern Brawler with a druid here, just to make sure it is working the way it should.
Fate, dost thou require?
All right, so druid, we don't need to make any other decisions. Update druid. Come on, Jahira, don't you know not to show feed on YouTube? Whoop. Take whatever here, and then we'll just grab Tavern Brawler. So I think you're going to want, for most druid builds, you're going to want to start with 15 Constitution and take Tavern Brawler to push you to 16. So that gives you a little bonus there. It will also make it a little easier to build just good stat spreads. You can now start... you could actually start 8, 15... 8, 16, 15, 8, 16, 8. Or 8, 17, 8. And that would be a very good stat spread. So we can now, because we're taking Tavern Brawler as one of our feats, get more wisdom to start with and dump other physical stats. That's going to be a really nice little bonus to druids as well, in addition to the actual effect of Tavern Brawler. I have to select a cantrip here, and then, alright, let's wild shape real quick. So if we wild shape into a Deep Rothe, no idea how to pronounce that, by the way. So Primal Stampede is not the Deep Rothe one. I now don't know what Primal Stampede refers to. If anyone knows what no longer has a saving throw against, or what now has a saving throw against being prone, let me know in the comments, please. Not 100% sure what that spell is. Alright, so it's not showing up in the tooltip. We should be getting, because a Deep Rothe has, character sheet, has 18 strength, so we should be getting plus 8 damage. But let's see if we... And it's not showing up in the tooltip. Let's see what we get. Let me hit something that can actually take damage here. So we did 10 damage to that bottle. So it did plus 4, so attack modifier, 15, plus 2 from proficiency, 4 from Tavern Brawler, 4 from Tavern Brawler. That's working the same way as it used to. Damage modifier, yeah, it is adding the strength mod twice. So that's awesome. So that means that you will almost certainly want to pick up Tavern Brawler at level 4 for any druid who's going to be wild shaping. And I think that probably the best druid build going forward is going to be similar to my Owlbear focused druid build, focusing on Circle of the Land, getting access to haste at level 5 or level 6, and then using that rather than using Moon Circle, because the Moon Circle Myrmidons are less valuable than they used to be since they can't benefit from Tavern Brawler at all. So I think you're actually going to want Land Druid rather than Moon Druid for Wild Shape in the future. Just something to keep in mind. Alright, and then let's also, while Ox Jahira stomps around, let's test a thrower real quick as well.
Dost thou require?
I don't really know why I'm using Karlach for this, and whatever. And Jahira for the wild shape. It just feels right, you know? So we don't need to make any additional changes here. We will take Bearheart, I guess. Berserker is probably what we should be taking here, but then we take Tavern Brawler. We've got 16 strength. Again, if you're taking Tavern Brawler, you're going to want an odd number, but we're just testing to make sure this still works the way that that it should. So we are going to throw. We will throw Nirolna at this desk. Let me go over here. Wait for Scratch to move so I don't get in trouble with the internet again. Come on, Scratch. Out of the way. Oh no, he's stuck. Oh, it's because he wants to fetch the spear. Oh no, Scratch. Bad plan. Path is interrupted. What do you mean path is interrupted? All right, let's find something we can attack. We'll just attack Volo here. Okay, so that didn't work. Why did that not work? Okay, so how much damage did that do? It should be doing +4 Tavern Brawler, +4 Strength, and we hit... Wait, so is this still adding additional Strength damage? Doesn't really matter what the rest of the combat is doing. I'm just looking at these logs here. Yeah, Karlach is dead. That's fine. But so we use throw, and that one didn't work. We hit. So attack roll, d6, +4 from Tavern Brawler, +4 from Strength. This is very distracting as everyone's beating down Karlach in the background. So that is a 16 to hit, and then we did plus Strength, and then it adds the Tavern Brawler separately. So yeah, you still are getting 2 applications of Tavern Brawler, so thrower builds are still working correctly. Which is good. That means that throwing builds have not been nerfed, at least in the way they are intended to be used. There were probably some cases where you were getting to triple dip on your attribute bonus before, but in this case we are now only getting to double dip, as it should be, and throwing builds are still going to be very powerful and intact, and still the highest damage output builds without spending resources in the game, tied with Aura of Hate builds for Paladin. Alright, my friends, so this has been my quick summary notes. I will be back soon with more info about stuff going forwards for patch 5. Also, do join me this Saturday for my 5,000 subscriber live stream. And I will also bring you some more information because I will probably start an honor mode playthrough, and I will see the best ways to get that onto YouTube because I'm really excited for honor mode. It's gonna be a blast to play through. And I'd love to share that with you. Alright, my friends, thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know, again, also, if you enjoyed this look at the patch notes. This is new for me, so, you know, if this is something that you are interested in having me cover going forwards, then I appreciate hearing about it. And you can subscribe to my channel for more of this and other strategy game content. Cheers, my friends. I'll catch you next time.